The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 88.
88.
What is the topic?
This is 2020. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I was just joking when I suggested that title to you, but you were like, sold.
Yeah, this is like our year in review, so we'll have fun.
Yeah, we'll talk about lots of stuff.
Cool. Well, before we hop into that, how about anything from last week?
Yes, last week we talked about intentions, and I really liked that episode.
Yeah.
I was talking to a client of mine who's also a listener of the show. Her name is Trisha, and we started talking about that week's episode, and she said it kind of snapped for her that when there was something in there, I wrote it down just in case, because I knew I was going to forget. She said in that episode to ask yourself what your intentions are before you say something. So before the words come out of your mouth, you should, what are your intentions? And she said that really got her. Yeah. That she really grabbed a hold of that. Because it's like, where do you want the situation to go? Right. You really, at that point, have the ability to set the intentions yourself. If you want good intentions, then you approach it in a positive manner. And, so her and I talked about that a little bit. And I was glad to hear that kind of, clicked. I like to hear when we are able to reach out like that.
Yeah, it's tough because each situation's different in conversation, but particularly when it's like a confrontational kind of thing and you have to talk about something that may be hard. Yeah. It's like, what are your intentions in that? Are you just out to kind of use words that stab? Right. Or jab? Are you actually in it to try to communicate?
Exactly.
I'm glad she picked up on that. That's cool.
Me too. Absolutely. And I'm glad that we had a chance to talk about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the movie Soul that just came out, the Disney movie.
Really good.
Yeah, we watched this last night, and I wasn't expecting it. You should tell the listeners how it kind of caught your eye, the movie, because you were the one that suggested that we watch it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to pick up the ham for dinner in the valley, and we were just coming out of the driveway, and the billboard for it caught my eye. But at first, I saw the word soul, and I saw this guy that, there's the character in it, and he's got a hat. He's an African-American man. He's got a hat and glasses, but next to him, it looks like, they kind of look like these little friendly Casper the Ghosts, kind of cute little, but they're not ghosts. They more represent what I'm thinking is more like an orb, but they show them with little arms and legs to sort of humanize them a little bit more, I think, for entertainment purposes. But so it was like a soul. It was like a glowing sort of ball. And I was like, that's weird. And I looked at the top. I'm like, that's Disney. That's Disney Pixar. Yeah. But the film was really, really good.
It was really good. You told me last night that when you saw that billboard, you weren't going to look at it, and you kept hearing, like, look at it, which is one of the weird things that happens when something is supposed to grab your attention. Yeah. And then watching this movie, it's all about how this works. Mm-hmm. Whoever wrote this movie is either connected themselves or has had some kind of, experience, because there was so much truth to this. Like, there's parts where one of the souls that's never been a human is tasting pizza for the first time. Mm-hmm. And it's those types of things that they caught the detail in, that it's like, this is actually the way it works. Mm-hmm. There's so much in this movie that's true. It was incredible. Yeah.
I was really astounded in the way they did it in such a way that's easy to sort of comprehend, but it was well done. But yes, you're right. We were pulling out of that parking lot, and it was madness because this place had a line out the door. So I'm kind of helping you look to see, is it safe to pull out of the parking lot? But I can see this thing out of the corner of my eye, this billboard, and I'm like, I'm going to look. Give me a second here. I just want to make sure we don't smack into or get smacked by a car. Yeah. But once I looked, I was like, Wow.
Yeah. And there's those types of movies, like, I was sitting there thinking, this is such a weird time for this movie to come out because it totally fits what's happening right now with this Great Awakening. And for us, it hit home in different ways. Like, one of my lucky numbers is 22. And one of the souls' names, the main souls in this movie, is 22.
Yeah.
It was just a trip. And, you know, your relation to music and how people look at music is like, you know, oh, you won't go anywhere. That's too difficult to take that road, and that some people aren't supportive of it. There was so much that we related to
very much
on that level too. But I highly, highly recommend it
for sure. Yeah,
for anybody.
If you like the Disney stuff, this was a cool one.
It was really cool. The Pixar stuff is getting even better. I noticed that it's more human looking. It's weird.
The other thing too about it is I kind of recently, not to bag on the entertainment industry, but I had said to you, you know, there's so many remakes of movies. I'm like, does anybody have an original, you know, idea? However, I understand pulling from things because musically I pull from my heroes.
Sure.
You know, it's inevitable. They rub off on you and you want to do something like that.
Yeah.
But I had said that to you recently, and this one is not like, it's not another princess.
Yeah, you had said specifically Disney, that you pulled Disney out of all of them.
I was like, can they come up with something new?
And they did.
And they did.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, way to kind of speak to the masses. Like, whoever wrote this story, bravo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For real, it needed to happen.
And visually, Pixar did a wonderful job with sort of interpreting it in a visual sense.
Yeah, that's hard to do.
But playful and fun, but really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Highly, highly recommend.
Yes, for sure. So anyways.
Yeah. So that's it.
That's it for the recap. Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, episode 88 then, 2020. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Seriously.
I'd say please, but...
And 2021 will just creep in there very quietly. Don't touch anything. Don't disturb anything. Nobody say this is going to be your year. No, I'm just kidding. No, 2020, we did a recap last year. And I didn't listen to it. I should listen to it because it's probably so different from this year. Because this year was like nothing I think most of us have ever seen, especially in the United States. If you're here, because we had, on top of COVID, we had all kinds of political stuff, and we're going to get into all of that in this episode. But so I really wanted to know, like, we have our discussion group, and in the discussion group, it's the people that listen to our show mostly, and we just ask questions so that we know what you guys want to talk about, what's going on with you, so that this isn't just about our lives, it's also listener interactive and about yours.
Yeah.
So this episode I made very interactive. I wanted to know what our listeners had been through this year. What were the most important things that they wanted to talk about in this episode?
Cool.
And so, let's see. I asked for them what the biggest events were, and 75% said COVID.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that they said were the election, wildfires, and the Black Lives Matter movement. I did want to read what Kaylee had to say.
Okay.
She said, for me, it was a mixture of COVID and the election. With COVID, I was fine not having to be around people. It allowed me to really feel the passing of my dad. Her dad just died about a year ago.
Right.
So it was a really tough year.
Right.
COVID was also bringing a blessing in disguise for our business. My significant other is a contractor, so everything really picked up work-wise for him. It wasn't until the election that everything hit me. It was really the election itself that just put things into perspective for me. The having to make a decision between the lesser of two evils made no sense to me. It really showed how divided the United States really is, and we are still feeling it even now. The nasty things people said to each other because of the two men that we only knew from media was absolutely ridiculous, and people can really be too harsh.
Yeah.
That about sums it up. It was, kind of wild.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee.
Yeah, Kaylee, thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about COVID-19 and how it changed our year.
Right.
Because it really, really did. In less than a year, it's done things that will probably, I don't think we'll ever go back. There will never be, like, people say, when's it going to go back to normal? Well, it's not going to. it's going to be a new type of normal.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, look at like China and places that have always worn masks. We kind of laughed at them, I think, before this. But now you can see that it really does help.
Makes a lot of sense.
It does. And so I did some, I looked up numbers, okay, on COVID and different places, different countries. And we don't really know how honest China is being about their numbers. Right. Their numbers seem really, really small compared to the rest of the world. But let me read to you where this stands as of yesterday.
All right.
80.5 million cases worldwide. 1.7 million deaths worldwide. The U.S. has the most cases, 20 million cases.
Wow.
That is 1/4 of the entire world, the cases in the entire world, with 340,000 deaths.
Wow.
We know so many people that have or have had
1 million deaths worldwide?
Worldwide was 1.7 million deaths.
And we're 300,000 of that million? Mm-hmm. Oy vey.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Tells you a lot.
It really does. It
yep.
speaks volume. I'm not even going to say anything. It speaks it for itself.
It does. We're right now where we live, the ICU availability is 0. Mm-hmm. There's nothing.
And our neighboring county as well.
Yeah. So we're completely on lockdown. Nothing's open. Can't even go out to eat. Can't even sit outside to eat.
Yeah.
Can't get your nails done. Can't get your hair done.
No.
And it's really frustrating to watch a lot of the rest of the country going on like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It's
and I'm sure it's affected a lot of people. I know it's affected a lot of people much greater than you and I because we already kind of were working we were working from home before this started. So, we didn't have to worry so much about that. Knock on wood. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
out there.
So thankful.
But it definitely changed it in the sense that it made you feel like you had to be more reclusive because now you have to eliminate all these other things like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Nail salons, whatever.
Yep.
Things that you took for granted as everyday,
Yeah. There's so many things that, I miss that I can't wait to come back. We've talked about movie theaters. It's like these are totally things that you take for granted. I would have loved to have seen that movie last night in the theater.
I would have too.
It sucks for Disney that it had to be released on Disney Plus. There's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to see it just because they don't want to have that membership, know?
Yeah.
Movie theaters for sure. There's all these things that I wonder too, when is it going to be normal to where there's not seats in between you and other people, you know? Now, for me, I've always been somewhat of an introvert, and I don't, I've talked about that I grew up with a hypochondriac mother and grandmother and then ex-husband, and so I was kind of right there along with them. And I'm not like that anymore, thankfully. But still, because that's so much of my background, this little bit of space between people does give me a different level of comfort than it might for some others. This is perfect for me. In a perfect world, I would love to have delivery, to have everything delivered, not have to go out and deal with people at the grocery stores. So this, for me, has actually kind of been a plus.
Yeah. But
on the downside, when I go out now, I'm not happy all the time. I mean, I cover it up that I'm okay, I'm fine. It's not a big deal, I'm cool out there, but I want to get home. I just want to go home because people are just, they're different now. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that changes too.
I think this is part of the process. It has to get bad before it gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. People have to learn a lot of, I think one of the lessons that a lot of us have to learn this year is that to not be so selfish.
Yeah.
And if we could more learn that on a more global level, maybe this would end sooner. But there's just so many people that, for whatever reason, are just selfish and this is about me, me, me. Right. It's not about you. It's about the whole world.
The part that's, I'm not going to lie, is kind of embarrassing is that the numbers speak that globally we're the problem.
Right.
Our numbers are much greater than anybody else on not just infections but deaths. Yeah. So, I mean, when can we, like you said, stop being selfish and just do this for each other?
Yep.
So our children and their children can have something to look forward to. Maybe a different kind of world, a different Earth.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Like, it's not... We need to send our kids back to school, but we need to do it the right way. If we don't do it the right way, this isn't going to end.
No.
I mean, luckily we have the vaccines coming, but you're still going to have those people that are like, I'm not going to take it.
Right.
But I did see that, like, I have a friend whose daughter works in healthcare, and she got her COVID vaccine, just the first one. You have to have 2 of them. And they gave her a card, and she carries that card everywhere with her now, showing that she's had the COVID vaccine. And that's probably what life is going to be like.
Probably.
And that's okay. It gives us some kind of reassurance that this.
Oh, you'll need it for travel for sure.
Oh yeah, I read an article today about that. That's pretty.
Especially going to other countries, they're going to want to know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Something else. I want to go back to the numbers, but something else that I've noticed this year is a big advancement in technology, and I think that as you know, with COVID, people more staying home, we're having to learn more how to stay home and work from home and use technology from home. And it's a trip now. Like, I got an Apple Watch a while back, and I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, they predicted this, didn't they? And like the Jetsons or somebody had a watch with like a screen on it, just like that.
Yeah.
So we're totally moving in technology the way that we're supposed to. You know, it's just, I think we've like jumped really fast, and things now seem very much more futuristic than they did a year or 2 ago.
Yeah.
It's trippy. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but
no, I think it's been quick advancements, and there'll be spurts like that. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So going back to the numbers, I didn't write down the deaths on these, but so we said that the U.S. had the most cases with 20 million. India had 10 million. That's India. They had half of what we had. That's crazy.
Dang.
Yeah. Brazil had 7 million, and then Russia, France, and UK all are between 2 and 3 million. So we are really, I mean, there's a lot of open space there, yeah, but they're a pretty big country. And for them to have such a smaller number. Some of these countries we really don't know. Like, okay, for example, China. I was talking about this.
Right.
China only has reported 86,000 cases. That's where it came from.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe.
However, my response to you when we discussed this yesterday was because we can see in their society they're not afraid to wear masks.
Right.
Or they do, whether they're told to, it's their law. If their numbers are correct, that is a direct result from them squashing it by those means.
Right. I don't know much about their government, but they do have a lot of control of their people.
They could be being dishonest, too.
They could be being dishonest, yeah. But they do have a lot more control over their people. And I hate to use that word because it doesn't have to be control if people would just listen.
Right.
But when you can't listen, you need authority to come in and tell you to sit down and shut up. And it's just like with a child. You have a parent that tells you when you're acting wrong. And that's kind of what our government's trying to do in this, is just say, this is not how you act in a pandemic. Put your mask on. But people don't listen here. They listen over there because they'll go to jail or God knows what.
In that type of situation, I mean, really, is it control? I kind of feel like that's your perception.
Yes,
if
for sure.
you were coming from it from a standpoint of, like, we are one.
Yes.
Globally, nationally, whatever, however you want to look at, we are one. So in order to make sure that lives aren't lost, whether it's a stranger or a family member or a friend, that requires doing what's suggested.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's suggested that you do this.
Yep.
It's only suggested because they're hoping people will take it to heart and do it. Yep. So they don't have to make it mandatory. But as you can see by the numbers, something's not working. And I think that's because some people don't want to be quote unquote controlled.
Yeah, they're not listening.
Right.
Like, I don't know what it's like in other countries. I have barely left my city in the last year. But I can tell you that for us, we did not get to spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with your family.
No.
It was just the 3 of us, which was nice. I'm not complaining about it. It was actually different and it was nice. But your aunt was alone. that sucked.
It did.
You know?
For
all of the people that were alone, this sucked. And there should have been a different way. But because there's just so much selfishness going on, this is just what it's come to. And this is where we are. And we forget that this is not the only Christmas. A lot of people are like, well, this could be my last Christmas. You never know. Anything could happen. I could be dead by next year. I used to think like that too, and I try not to think like that anymore because I know that's not the case. So I try to think like, this is just 1 year. Look at how many Christmases I've had in my life. This is just 1 year. There's going to be many more that I'm going to be able to do what I want. You know, next year we hope to go on vacation. But this year it was sit home, watch a movie, eat some delicious food, open some presents, and, you know, have a mellow Christmas.
Part of that was really nice, actually.
It was very nice.
It's not nice when you feel like you're doing it, like you have to do it.
Right.
Part of it's not nice, but overall it was nice. I just felt like this second time around when, you know, California governor, where we're at, said we're going to, you know, shut it down, stay home order again for the next 3 weeks. I wasn't thrilled about that at all.
None of us were.
Because of the numbers and what they're speaking, we felt like as a family, it's best to try to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
So I even, you know, had to talk to the guys and say, look, we got to shut this down, you know, for 3 weeks and no rehearsals, no recording, which sucks. I so hate that. I do not want to halt the process and progress because everything's moving and changing and it's great. It's when you feel like you got to lock it all up and nothing can move or change. It gets stagnant and frustrating, but we did our part. And I'm proud of us for doing that, you know, and sticking in there and being locked in the house for, you know, 3 or 4 weeks. It'll be 4 weeks by the time we're back to kind of doing our thing. But but I just don't see.
With the New Year holiday.
Right.
Yeah.
If we would just wear masks, there wouldn't have to be stay-home order.
Right, exactly. Yep.
But that's how it goes.
But yeah, that's what it's like here. And it's frustrating to see people around the country, especially in areas that are, you know, have a lot of this, just going about their business. Mm-hmm. But we did our part. Mm-hmm. And maybe we helped to protect ourselves or somebody else. Maybe we didn't. Doesn't matter. We did what was asked of us. We did what was morally right.
Our intention was good.
Our intention was good. Our intention was protection of everybody.
Yeah.
So that's really, that was a good thing to say. Good use of that word. It's your intentions. What's your intentions? I'm not going to wear a mask. Well, what's your intentions for not wearing a mask?
Right.
You know. Yeah. As far as numbers go, another one that, you know, shocks but doesn't shock is North Korea, because you never know what's going on there. They say they have 0 cases. They have 25 million people. Now, they've locked down, you know, they're a pretty locked down country, but it's still hard to believe that they have 0 cases.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I don't know. And then you have New Zealand, who, as of now, is only having like a couple cases per day, if that. So they're probably, I don't know what they did over there, but they would probably be good to look at as how they handled things.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. So let's see. What else did I ask our listeners? I asked them what has changed, you know, for the better and for the worse. Like, a lot of people have lost jobs this year, or, you know, whatever has affected their lives. But sometimes these different things that have happened over the year, they actually have moved us in a positive direction. Mm-hmm. People that have lost their jobs, actually myself included, I lost my main job this year. I retired from pet sitting this year. Mm-hmm. I was told that was going to happen. So for me, it wasn't such a big deal. But if I hadn't been told and known how it was going to happen, I probably would have been panicking, just like a lot of other people. But I talked to a lot of people through this, and I see that some of these things that have happened in their lives have happened this year, have happened to move them along in their lives. Mm-hmm. COVID has made a lot of these things that have happened this year have made us move our lives in a different direction. Mm-hmm. And so my point is, if you're one of those people, if these changes have occurred for you, stop for a second and look at the positive. Is there a positive?
Yeah.
Because you may have lost your job, but you may have gotten a better one.
You may have hated that job, but you just held on to it for, stability, and that's totally understandable.
Absolutely.
But again, like what you're saying, the universe kind of has a way of shoving you out of a situation that's not right for you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so grateful that we were in the position that we were in already before it hit. Being what I did before, painting and music was dealing with the public. And I would have been probably a nervous wreck every single day, leaving and coming home.
Yes. The last few years has definitely unraveled the way it should have, the timeline. And I think for most people, if they look at their lives, if they really, really look at their lives, they can see how certain things have had to happen so that their life can be where it is right now. Mm-hmm. It's like you not having that job anymore. That really helped us in this situation. Marina living with us full time really helped us in this situation. Mm-hmm. These things our life would have been much more difficult if those things wouldn't have happened. Right. So these are kinds of things we have to look at too. What has changed in your life so that COVID or whatever affected your life this year wasn't maybe as bad as it would have been if other changes would have occurred. Right. These are all things that we need to look at because it helps us kind of understand how the universe works and how life works. And, this so-called simulation or movie that we're living in, it helps you see how yours is unfolding,
Exactly.
So I asked our listeners what are some of the things that they went through this year. One of the top things that they said negatively that they did was they lost friends because of differences in opinion.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this comes down to the election.
Yeah.
And the Black Lives Matter movement. We're in the United States, obviously. So other countries, you probably have just seen, on the news, bits and pieces of what happened here over this last year. But I've never seen anything like it in my life. I feel like we lived in a different country. Like, I was so shocked at how our country responded to things that were going on. It's just maddening, Yeah. We start, okay, let's talk a little bit about, let's see, where's my notes on George Floyd? Okay, so George Floyd was killed by 3 police officers, right? There were 3 of them? Or were there 4? Well, there was really one that he was responsible, and his name was Derek Chauvin.
Right.
And
But there was 3, I guess. I think.
Yeah, I think so. That was
holding him down.
Yes.
Altogether.
That was May 25th, 2020. And after 8 minutes of Derek putting his knee on George Floyd's neck, George Floyd passed away. And it sparked riots throughout not just the United States, but globally.
Yeah.
Some of the numbers from that. There were protests in 50 states, and like I said, other countries as well. It began in Minneapolis. 14 people died in the United States. There were 14,000 arrested. $500 million in damages alone in St. Paul and Minneapolis. And $1 to $2 million throughout the United States. There were also, they estimate, this is a large number to estimate, but okay, that in the United States, 15 to 26 million people participated in the riots.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the things that made me upset about the way that people were talking about the riots or protests is that it was both. It was there was rioting and there was protesting, and people seemed to lump it all together.
Yeah,
like the people that were doing the rioting, the looting, setting things on fire. They weren't the same people walking through the streets with signs peacefully. It was 2 different types of groups of people.
Yeah,
one, you have the right by law, by the Constitution, to you have the right to protest. The other ones, you don't have the right to do. But that was something that kind of made me angry, was how they just lumped all of that together.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of this, we're also dealing with an election year, which election years in the United States are always a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
It seems like that's the year where you hear, the most, the Democrats and the Republicans, you hear the left and the right talked about all the time. Because it's just, everything is... It has to be because it's an election year. COVID had to be because it's an election year. Right. The riots have to be because it's an election year. Well, no, these are just the other things that are happening.
Right. I've never seen an election really affect the society as much as this one has, in my own perception.
Yes.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And I will say that I've never seen these types of reactions from people that I know that are friends.
Yes.
And like you said, losing friendships or having differences because of it.
Yes.
I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. As far as I can, you could be my friend. That's not an issue. I do have an issue when a nation's leader acts and speaks in such a manner that nobody else in the world is doing this.
Right.
And I would think to myself, would I want that person ever talking to my children like that?
Right.
Or my wife like that? That's what it boils down to me for.
That's right.
The level of respect, compassion, and ability to communicate in a mature, professional manner.
Yes.
You're not a garbage man. You're not a coach of a baseball team. You're the president of the United States.
That's right.
That comes with some level of accountability.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't care about you as a person and your beliefs politically, but I expect you, when representing the taxpayers and citizens of the nation,
yep,
I expect you to represent us in such a manner.
All of us.
All of us.
Not just one party.
Right.
All of us. Yeah.
So that's kind of my issue with it. But
yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame that we have to put a poll up like that and that people actually respond and say, yeah, I've lost some close people, because that was never relevant in my choice, my selections of friends. It was never relevant.
No. I have some friends with some pretty different political views. We just don't talk about it. It's just better we just don't talk about it, you know? It's when it's forced on you to talk about, and it's your opinions are wrong, and those are the types of people that I can't handle. I can't argue with people. I put a funny meme up on Facebook the other day about, because Christmas Vacation is my favorite Christmas movie, and it was the scene with Clark when he gets his Jelly of the Month club, you know, and it's you see it, and it's actually a check from the government that says $600, like our stimulus checks. It was funny. It was a joke, but somebody put a video, one of my friends put a video of Nancy Pelosi, something about what the Democrats are doing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, this is funny. So then I put another one up later that I had to put a thing on that I said, this is not a political post, again, because it was like Cousin Eddie, you know, getting his $600 check and saying, get yourself something real nice, Clark. Yeah.
That I loved.
But you have to, like, put a warning label on it. This isn't political.
Yeah.
It's just a funny meme.
Yeah.
And that's so sad. I don't know why people feel the need to change other people's political views. I feel like the people that think the same way that we do, those are our people. Not everybody is going to be like us. It makes me sad, and it bothers me, and I've mentioned this to you a gazillion times. It bothers me how close this election actually was. Like, it was only, a few million off of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't much. It wasn't as much as I thought it would be. But I think that's because a lot of people just didn't vote. Mm-hmm. A lot of people voted strictly by party lines. But if you look at what happened here the day after it was declared that Joe Biden was the next president, and that half of the country was, like, every major city, they're partying in the streets.
Yeah.
We've never seen that before in other countries. What is the bell? Is that the Notre Dame bell where they did that? Where they don't set, like, ring the bell?
I don't know where
often?
the bell was exactly,
Yeah.
but you might be right, yeah.
Maybe not, but somewhere.
They don't do it very often.
Yeah, they don't do it very often, and they did that day. They ring the bell. And there were fireworks in the United Kingdom, and, you know, that tells you something right there. Mm-hmm. What the people of this country really wanted. Mm-hmm. That's it. And they wanted peace. Not
just this country, but what other countries were seeing and feeling.
Yep. They chose peace.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it can't just be left like that. We have to be, dragged through the mud still for the rest of his term. But it is what it is. We'll learn a lot through it. We'll get through it, and things will change. Things are going to change.
Yeah.
Yep. That Disney movie, I think, was like showing us almost like things are going to change. They really are.
It's a nice introduction to it. I kind of feel like what I said to you. It's a way to start. We have to start with the young.
Yeah.
We're not going to, teach these old dogs new tricks.
No.
Most of us are set pretty much in our way.
Yeah.
But with the young generation and teaching them a different way of looking at things can start a whole new chain reaction, and it will. It's just going to take time.
That's right.
But it was for me, watching that was a nice sigh of relief.
Right? It was, wasn't it? It was like, okay, somebody is recognizing what's actually going on here.
Yeah, I would love to meet the person that wrote that.
Yeah, totally. One thing that I forgot, we're like all stuck on this movie. One thing I wanted to say about it is because if you watch it, there's times where I talk about how when I'm doing this podcast, I feel like I'm channeling. And then all of a sudden I'll lose my concentration. There's one part where they actually address that, how when you're like connected to that, what did they call it? There was a certain phrase that they used, the zone. That's the way they use it, that when you're in the zone, right?
Yeah.
So this is me in the zone when I'm channeling, and then something will come along and like hit me, like a rock, because the actual human side of me knocks me out of it. And they addressed that in that movie, and I thought that was so awesome. So when you see that, that's what I'm talking about. Totally. How easy it is for me to sidetrack myself from the inside. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Anyways, getting back to what we were talking about. So people lost friends. That was the first thing that they said. They've also become more introverted, which we've kind of talked about a little bit too. I think, that just happens when you're not around people as much. For some people, I think maybe they got worse, that they wanted to be with people more. There are those exceptions that this made them really, really crave the human companionship. But for a lot of people, it did, I've noticed, made them more introverted. They don't want to really go out much anymore.
Yeah.
A couple other things that our listener said is that they themselves were affected by COVID. They have or have had it. We know a lot of people ourselves. They had to cancel holiday plans. They've lost a job or the death of a loved one. Some positive changes in 2020 that our listeners went through, and I really enjoyed the selection because I put up like a list of things for them to pick from, and I never really know what they're going to pick from. And the top things that they picked in this were opening my eyes to racism and other issues.
Nice.
And I think that that's great. I think that, we didn't maybe realize just how big this racism issue was in this country. I don't know what it's like in other countries. I just know what it's like here. Yeah. But, that was...
very cool.
Yeah. Number 2, learned a lot about things I knew nothing about when the year started. Me too. A lot, I think.
It's inevitable.
For sure. They understand life more. That's great, too. And then the few said they have a new job or a better job. Their spouse got a new job or pay increase. And a few of our listeners are pregnant. Wow. We know so many pregnant people, too. Yep. It's amazing. You called it. You said that the stay-at-home order, there was going to be a baby boom.
There'll be a baby boom.
And here it is. It's coming. Starting. Absolutely.
Which is, it's only fitting. We've lost a lot of lives as a result of this. And... yeah. You are locked inside. It's proven, post-wartime is always a big baby boom because people are home and together. And I think something like this makes you question your own mortality and the world and the things that you can't see, right? Yeah. Like little things like viruses, but not just those things, like the magic that's going on around us that we can't see. And as scary as this whole thing is and was, I definitely feel like it happened for a reason.
Oh, yes.
I definitely think that it was meant to change people's lives. It did take some lives, which is really sad, but it affected a lot of people in a different way, and it made us start thinking about deeper things, which is what the universe wants us to think about.
Right.
They want us to think deeper.
Yes.
And because the more you do that, the more you start to appreciate this experience.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Something that I heard while you were talking about that is this year was almost a replenishing of souls in a way. Mm-hmm. Dolores Cannon, I believe in one of her books, had talked about how around this time that this was all supposed to happen, this shift into 5D, that we would start to see a lot of people exiting, that they would, replenish the souls, old souls leaving, new souls coming in, and that's what we need, and that's really what's happening. There was a theory that I had a while back, and I talked about this to you months ago, I think, that I had a theory that this year's death toll was going to be really high compared to most years. Mm-hmm. I had never done any research on this before, so I really wasn't aware of how many people die per year and that kind of thing, okay? Right. So in some of the research that I did, I found out that the worldwide death toll has been dropping since 1950. So every single year, less and less people have been dying. We're finding new ways to keep people alive, except for 2019 and 2020. Both have had an increase of 0.44%. Now, that may not seem like a huge increase, but when every year you're dropping, 2018, we saw less people dying by negative 3.2%. So that is a very large difference in what we're seeing, and we're seeing it go up.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is statistics from the 48th week of the year for the United States when this was done. By that point, 2.8 million people have died in the United States. The previous year for the whole year was 2.6. So already in the 48th week, we already have 2.7 million more people, 270,000 people more that had died.
I was going to say that.
In just, those months. And then it was the same from the year before. It was 2.6 million. So we can see that there was a big change this year, a big change.
For sure.
And then worldwide, I also wrote down that 2020 worldwide, 7.6 million people have passed up to when this research was done. And then the previous year, it was 7.5 million. So there's, 100,000 difference there, give or take.
Yeah.
And then 2018 was also 7.5, but it was just a little bit lower, 7.54 instead of 7.57. So you can see that there is a very big difference here this year in the United States and worldwide.
Yeah.
And is it COVID related? Yeah, a lot of it is. But there's other things too. And it really is, it's spiritual. It is. And that's hard for a lot of people to think about that have lost loved ones, that maybe this was just the time that they chose to exit for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We've talked about before, and we're going to do a whole episode on what happens when you die and how the souls work. And which is great. We just saw that movie too, because it's kind of like that. But there's only so many bodies. And the souls have to wait to come into the bodies. So when people leave, it gives another soul a chance to come in.
Yep.
And so we're giving a lot of new souls a chance to come in here.
Yeah.
And this baby boom.
Well, even though that we have, less deaths happening more and more every year since the 50s.
Yeah.
Because of medicine, and we're more health conscious and yada, yada. There's still an exuberant amount of souls, regardless of how many bodies are on the earth. That just enables more souls to be here at once.
Right.
A mass exiting like this is okay, there has to be a baby boom. You understand? It has to be,
replenishing the souls.
It's part of it. It's just a natural thing that we do without even realizing what we're doing.
Right.
Because it's happening on a mass scale. Just like the exit, there's now a mass breeding going on.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it's a trip.
It's a balance that we don't even realize is happening.
I never looked into this before. So next year I'd like to, when we do this year in review, I want to see what was different next year. Are the numbers going to go back down? Are we going to have less deaths? Right. Is this going to be, how many births? I should have looked up births. I didn't do that.
Right.
But I could. Yeah, to see what the differences is and how this year affected that. We'll have to do that. I remember. I can't even remember what I was going to do earlier. I'm supposed to remember that next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll remind you.
Sure. Because you'll remember too.
Yeah.
Well, I have this episode to remind me.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I should do is listen to the year in review. So we have a few more minutes, so let's talk about some of the other things that happened this year.
Yeah.
We had some pretty devastating wildfires.
Yeah.
Not just here in the United States, but in Australia as well. It started in Australia.
Yeah, they got it really bad.
They did. They had, 40 million acres burned. 34 people died. Here in the U.S., we had it was record-setting. Not just the California fires, but the country as a whole. We had 52,000 fires.
Wow.
Yeah. 8.9 million acres burned.
Dang.
So
double that.
Yeah, exactly. Double of Australia. And the average normally that's 2.3. That's 2.3 million acres more than the average. So it's another thing. Sorry if you hear the Great Dane snoring again. There he goes. So that's another increase that we're seeing. And we're seeing that because of global warming and all kinds of things like that. One of the biggest fires in California here, it was actually like a group of fires. I can't remember what they called it, but it was sparked by lightning and this massive lightning. We don't have much lightning here. No. I mean, it's really in most parts of California, that isn't as severe as it is in other parts of the country. Mm-hmm. But this lightning was crazy, and because of the because we don't get much rain, it just sparked some of the biggest wildfires we've ever seen. It's absolutely crazy. We were lucky here, thankfully, that we didn't get hit this year like some of the other places. I'm so thankful for that, because we had a couple of prior years we had got hit pretty bad. Yep. But 5 of the 6 biggest fires in California history were this year, going back to 1932. 5 of the 6 in this year alone.
Wow.
Yep. There were 46 deaths total in the United States from these wildfires, 32 in California, 11 in Oregon, 1 in Washington, 1 in Colorado. So we lost a lot of people. I mean, not a lot. That wasn't a great number, but we lost some people there too.
Yeah.
Something else that happened that hit us quickly was that explosion in Beirut. Remember that? That was August 4th when the
firework thing. I don't think it was fire. They said it was fireworks.
It wasn't. I can't remember what it was.
They were storing ammunition.
That's exactly. It was stored there. They didn't do anything about it.
Somebody was fined. It was Russian.
It was Russian.
It was a Russian ship, and they were being fined for leaving it sitting there. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't move it or pay the fine or whatever. Yeah,
something like that.
And it detonated.
Yeah. Those videos.
I left a hole in the earth, man.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then that sparked riots there, too. Mm-hmm. There's been riots and revolts and uprisings all over the world this year, I think more than any other time. And that also shows us, too, that we're moving into a new stage into this maybe 5th dimension or wherever, raising our consciousness, because more and more people are getting involved and fighting for what they believe in. Yeah. And it worked there. I believe that the government, the people that were in charge, stepped down. They gave in. So I haven't really followed the story since then. That was in August, but that was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was.
And then yesterday we had one in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's
was
a little.
Yesterday, 2 days ago.
It's a little too close to home. Yeah. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but
yeah, they a few people were. Did I write it down? No, I didn't. It wasn't a high number. There were a few injuries. They do believe at this point that it might have been a suicide bombing, because they did find, I don't know if it was body parts or what. Human remains scattered is kind of what they're saying. So they believe it might have came from inside the mobile home that exploded. So this is where they are right now. I haven't heard anything today about it.
That just happened to be packed with fertilizer?
Well, did you hear what happened? That there was actually a thing going off saying this is going to explode in 15 minutes. So whoever did this was on some kind of mission anyways. It being a suicide mission isn't unlikely.
Yeah.
It happens.
But they were still trying to potentially maybe hurt others.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting situation. You know, like, why would they warn people if they were trying to hurt people? Maybe they weren't trying to hurt people. Well, what was their motive?
Right.
If they were trying to hurt themselves, you would think they would go to a remote area and do this. So I don't know. We don't know much yet, but we'll know more soon, I'm sure.
Well, that's something I shared with you too. That a while ago, that I said if Trump loses, that's the next thing we're going to start seeing is homeland terrorism and
yeah,
Yeah,
we are seeing it. We've already seeing it a little bit, but yeah, we definitely are seeing more and more of things happening, and I don't know. It's sad. It makes me sad.
Yeah.
And then let's see how much time we got. Yeah. The other thing that I had that I wanted to talk about were just some of the people that we did lose this year. Mm-hmm. Some of the famous passings. One of the ones that I know affected a lot of people was Kobe Bryant's passing.
Yeah.
That happened so suddenly. That happened not far from us, like a half hour from us. He passed. That was January 26th in the helicopter crash with his daughter and 7 others.
Yeah. That
was caused by bad weather and then miscalculation. So.
Yeah, I don't think the pilot knew how to fly without particular instruments. He wasn't used to it. So.
What's sad is that now, I don't know if you've heard this, but Kobe Bryant's wife, her mother was supported by them, and she's now going after the wife because she's not supporting her mother anymore, and she says that she won't. Yeah. How are you supposed to? You don't have that income anymore. You have to take care of yourself and your kids. But mom's like, well, he promised that he would take care of me for the rest of my life. Oh, so now they're fighting about money, and that's so sad. That happens often.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it makes me really sad.
Yeah, I think probably on a global scale, he's the most recognized of who's passed,
and probably one of the most shocking because he was so young and it happened in such a tragic way.
Yeah,
we've lost a lot of celebrities, like different musicians and stuff. I've seen to COVID. I see every day different. Not like A-list. Obviously, we don't. Right. So we don't really hear so much.
No, but I read
them.
about some musicians that I didn't know their music per se or them personally, but I was like, oh, okay, wow, this really is, affecting everybody.
Yep. Some of the other lives that we lost this year, Neil Peart, and I think he was one of the first. He was January 7th.
Yeah.
Should have known at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Alex Trebek.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I yelled about that one. I'm like, you're going to leave us now? But you know what? She probably was more good to us on the other side than she was here.
So far.
Yeah. There was another Supreme Court justice, I believe, that passed this year, too. There were a few people, like, in that circle that were Democrats that I feel like they probably worked from the other side to help.
Yeah.
A really recent one was Tony Tiny Lister. He was Debo in Friday. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah, he passed of COVID.
He did pass of COVID, from COVID, yeah. And Sean Connery is another one. So that's just my short list, but there was
I'm
a
sure
lot.
we missed a lot, but it was a big year for that,
Yeah, it was. We lost a lot of people this year. I remember with each one of them going, come on, stay here and go through this with us. You can't leave now, But we all have our purpose and our path and, Yep.
And, fortunately for those that we did mention, they've left quite a legacy for people to,
Yes.
to remember and enjoy, which is a good thing.
I didn't know much about Alex Trebek. Sorry. I didn't watch Jeopardy, really. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. So I didn't know his personality. Mm-hmm. And then they started showing, like, different things about him after he passed. And he looks like such a funny, down-to-earth guy.
Yeah.
He actually died. They weren't expecting him to pass. He was sitting outside with his wife. He was watching the sunset. And he just died.
Wow.
They said that I think they're going to show the last episode of Jeopardy here soon. But they said that people on the staff there said that they wouldn't even have known that he was sick. That he wasn't showing like he was almost going to die. And that was during COVID. They filmed like towards the end,
right.
When we were allowed to do that again,
mm-hmm.
Shortly before he passed. So he was a pretty remarkable guy.
Yeah.
We should take the time to get to know some of these people better that really are like mentors instead of some of the other celebrities like, I don't know, maybe the Kardashians or somebody that, our kids look up to instead of maybe some that they should look up to. But
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. But 2021 is on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yep. And I hope that...
I think it's going to be better.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of is it, right back to, the past? No, but I don't really think that we want that.
No.
Completely. I think that something new and, just more conscious, more awake, more aware is good for this world.
Yes.
But we will go back to concerts and
we will
restaurants.
It'll take time.
Salons. That will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you and I have talked about this a few times. I don't even know how long ago was the first time that I mentioned that I felt that April would be when, like, what I see almost is like a sticking our heads out of the hole. Hello? Yeah. Is it safe to come out? That'll be around the time that we start to feel like, okay.
Yeah.
It's maybe we can start really getting back to life.
I agree.
Our amusement parks opening again, the movie theaters, but it is going to be a slow progression. It's what I see, is it's not going to be one day where, yippee, we're all going to throw our masks off. Because people are just not going to be that, I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, we went and did a drive-through at Magic Mountain to see their Christmas lights. And
yeah, that was fun.
It's weird to drive in an amusement park that you've walked around your whole life.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was a fun experience. And again, it was something I would have never imagined.
I love stuff like that because that's exactly what it is. It's a place that we've been to because it's like a half hour away and we've lived here most of our lives. We've been there so many times. We had an annual pass for a while, but we've never driven through there. And so just a different experience like that, even in the same place, is magical.
It was.
We wore our pajamas. We ate in and out in the car. We just made a whole thing out of it, Yeah. And these are the types of things that I feel like the universe wants us to do, to learn how to adjust to different things in our life without complaining about them. Look on the bright side. Do the fun things. Even if you can't get out of the car and go ride that roller coaster that you want to ride, that you just have to look at it. So what?
Right. Just
one day you will. Yeah. Just enjoy, enjoy the new experiences because that's what life's about.
Yeah.
Going on that roller coaster for the 80th time is fun, but it's different when you get to experience that from a different angle.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Enjoy it.
Well, is that our year in review?
That is our year in review episode. Right. That is Get Out of Here 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't let the door hit you or the good Lord split you.
Yeah.
And hopefully our next year in review will be a little brighter.
Yeah.
This one was but we have to, like anything, we have to kind of acknowledge where we came from.
Oh, yeah.
So we know where we're headed. And this is an acknowledgement of, you might have won some of the battles, but you didn't win the war.
Yeah.
Because life is going to go on.
That's right. There's always going to be those battles. Always. And
meaning viruses and adversity, not
whatever,
us personally. But
right.
That they may win some battles, but they're never going to win the war because that's part of our natural instinct is to survive.
Like Billy Joel said, we didn't start the fire.
No.
Yeah. We just keep fighting the battles, and that's all we can do, Take each day one step at a time. And when these things come up, we have to deal with them. And, just because this was a wild and crazy year doesn't mean that it's because it's 1 year. I mean, we joke about, get out of here 2020, but it doesn't mean going into 2021 that it's all going to go away. That's not realistic, But I think a lot of us, I was telling you this, I feel like a lot of us are going into 2021 manifesting a brighter year. And with the global consciousness and doing that, and the more of us that are like, yes, 2021 is going to be a good year, the more we can manifest that. I really, truly believe that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So that is definitely a plus. We need to do that.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
I'll go on record right now saying 2021 will be a good year.
Yeah. This year was a good year for us. It wasn't bad. There was a lot of change, a lot of necessary change. I in my personal life and home, I enjoyed this year.
Yeah.
And what happened to the country, it didn't.
No.
But yeah. So hopefully next year that will be better.
Yep.
So
Fingers crossed.
Yep. So this will be the last episode that will come out before the new year. The next one will be after. So happy New Year to everybody.
Yes. Happy and safe New Year, everybody.
Yes. Be safe. Wear your masks.
Yes.
You know, I don't know what people are going to do, but whatever you do, just be safe about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And go out there in 2021, be positive and prosperous, and just go for it.
Yep. Work it.
Yep.
Yep.
Believe.
Yes. Have faith.
All right. Well, before we say goodbye, would you like to share your page?
Yes.
Thank you, by the way. This was a good one. I
good. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, it was, a lot of downer stuff to talk about. Who wants to sit and talk about death numbers? But I think it's important.
Yep.
Anyways. So my website is SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. And if you'd like to reach us, if you'd like to send us a message or, a show idea or whatever, you can reach us at spiritualjoneses@gmail.com. And then for you.
And if you like to look at art, you can check my art out at djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Facebook and Instagram. And for the music, not many music up there yet, but there will be. GypsyBrown.com for the web, at Gypsy Brown Music for Instagram, and at Gypsy Brown Band for Facebook.
Yay.
And that's it.
That's awesome.
For me.
Okay.
Well, we hope everybody got something out of this.
That we do.
And that you have a brighter new year.
Yes. Happy New Year.
And until next week, peace and love.